almost 90 nuclear power plants are in operation in Northeast Asia, and perhaps this might be the most tightly condensed area for the nuclear energy consumption. Now, I wonder how the impact of Fukushima incident has been felt in Asia in terms of peaceful use of nuclear energy and also need for nuclear safety regulations. President Arroyo.
In the 1970s, the Philippines attempted to go nuclear by putting up the first nuclear plant, but it was fraught with many controversies, and it was discontinued when there was a change of administration. When I entered the presidency in 2001, we were about 60% dependent on imported energy, mainly fossil fuels. What I did during my administration was to try to reduce that dependence to the other way around. Now we are 40% dependent, 60% self-sufficient by promoting geothermal power, solar power, wind power, and biofuels. And we were beginning to develop the capability for nuclear energy again, because when in many years ago, when the nuclear program was stopped, we lost all our nuclear manpower, so we have to start all over again. And we had bills pending in the Congress to revive the nuclear power sector in our country, but the accident in Japan has put that on hold. It's such a pity because nuclear energy is clean and it's very reasonable in cost. And we do need reasonable power in the Philippines because we have high power costs. So I hope that there can be the world can find a response to what happened in Japan, that the world can find a solution to the issue of nuclear safety.
I see. Dr. Han?
Well, Three Mile Island incidents in the United States and Chernobyl incidents in 1986 created a lot of problems for the supporters of nuclear power in the past. And now this Fukushima. So all the communities are on alert how to make use of nuclear energy, at the same time safeguard the safety, nuclear safety. And I am sure that more time and energy will be spent on safeguarding the safety of the nuclear power plants in the future. But in time of, in an age of the climate change, when emissions are really creating a lot of problems for the future of humanity. For example, because of the emissions, all the average temperature increased by 0.74% degree during the last 150 years, but BAU, business as usual, will make the world average temperature by the end of this year to increase by 6.4 centigrade, or 6.4 degrees Celsius, which means unless we take some very drastic action in containing this increase of emissions, we will be done. Our generations, not ours, but our future generation will not have no hope in leaving this planet. Therefore, we have to find out some clean energy to substitute the fossil fuel. And at this juncture, the clean energy that can substitute on large scale of the fossil fuel is nuclear energy, unfortunately. Therefore, this is still necessary energy, but safe nuclear energy is a must for us as well for our generation. So I think more energies and research would have to be done, money have to spend on safeguarding the safety of the nuclear energy in the future.
Thank you. Recently we had a G20 speakers consultation being held in Seoul at the Korean National Assembly, and one of the major agenda discussed was how the countries should promote the regulations on the nuclear safety through laws and other institutional means. And I think certainly the incident in Fukushima this time has carry the message that in the region of Asia, where many nuclear power plants are being operated, we need to certainly promote the nuclear safety regulations and make sure that accidents like that do not happen in terms of national calamities. Let me turn to a country which is relatively isolated from the active, dynamic, regional interactions in Asia, and that is North Korea. The North Korean leader, Kim Jong-il, has recently been traveling in China for a week, visiting many cities and meeting with Chinese leaders, perhaps to discuss economic cooperation and others. And I would like to ask the leaders, how do you see the relationship between North Korea and China, and where is North Korea going? How Korea can be unified peacefully in the future? According to the observations made in the media, North Korea obviously needs investment from China to resuscitate its economy. And China is very much interested in developing the important region in northeast area of the country through developing Changchun, Jilin, and Tumen program, which might provide an outlet to the East Sea towards China. So I think that they have a common interest in promoting closer economic relationship, and I would like to ask comments on this issue by the two leaders.
Well, China is just about maybe the closest friend of North Korea, of the North Korean regime, and it is good that they have at least one good friend, because the people of North Korea are suffering great amount of poverty, even starvation. We don't really know the extent because it's a very isolated in terms of communicating with the world outside, and the resources that go to its nuclearization are also contributing to the increasing poverty of the people, because it's taking away resources from fighting poverty in North Korea. So really, in the Korean Peninsula, for peace and prosperity, a prerequisite is really the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And we hope, although we don't know all of the agenda items in the visit of the North Korean leader to China, we hope that among the things they talked about in their Four Eyes meetings would be the return to the six-party talks. If there's anybody that can influence North Korea to do that, it is China. And we hope that, as I said earlier in my remarks, when China's rise to the world stage brings with it responsibilities not only to its own citizens but to its neighbors. And China has been actually the convener of the six-party talks. So I hope that it can revive the talks. I hope the visit was a means for reviving the talks, because we do hope that there will be denuclearization in the Korean Peninsula for the good of the whole region, including the Philippines, which is the closest among the ASEAN countries to the Korean Peninsula geographically. We sympathize also with the aspirations of the Korean people for eventual reunification. And there are many obstacles to that. One of them is the continuing nuclearization of North Korea. And so therefore, all of that can happen when there is denuclearization. And we hope that all of the nations in the region will cooperate and lend their support to whatever needs to be done in order for the six-party talks to resume again.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for your encouraging remarks about North Korea and the Korean unification. And I think that Korea is different from Germany in terms of historical context and the geopolitical structure. But I think if you can learn one important lesson from Germany, that is that we need to continue our dialogue and perhaps economic community building between two Koreas to move towards political and final integration with the country. Would Dr. Han like to comment on the Korean issue?
When South Korea, that is, Republic Korea, was developing in the 60s and 70s, we had to go to Japan, United States, and Europe, faraway country, to learn and emulate what they have done in the past. But North Korea actually is in best position at this juncture because China, Korea, other country that North Korea should emulate, and it's the nearest country to North Korea, China, and Korea. Therefore, only option for North Korea to develop is to approach us, approach China, to learn their policy, open policy, and try to integrate North Korean economy with the global economy. That is the only way that the future of North Korean economy can have a kind of hope. And we sincerely hope that North Korea will become a responsible member of the international community by abandoning nuclear ambitions, because we think that if that thing is resolved, then the future of North Korea in various international, regional negotiation forum, their position will be much more enhanced. I think to them, nuclear program is a burden rather than hope for the future of North Korea.
Before I bring the session to a close, let me turn to important issue of climate change. And we all know that the Kyoto Protocol is going to expire next year, and the United Nations negotiations on how to deal with the challenges of the climate change is still continuing. We have seen the Cancun conference in Mexico to discuss the principles and the solutions to this problem. And Dr. Han has served as a special envoy on climate change and has participated in this process for a long time, and also as a leader of the Global Green Growth Institute. I would like to ask him the prospects for the negotiations for next year and where we are going on this issue. Dr. Han.
Well, next year is the last year of Kyoto Protocol. And unfortunately, we do not have any alternative to replace Kyoto Protocol at this juncture. And in December this year, we are going to have 17th COP, Conference of Parties of UNFCCC in Durban, South Africa. Many experts think that even Durban won't solve any problems. But Korea has been advancing several alternatives to the Kyoto Protocol. That is that according to UNFCCC, Kyoto Protocol has two Annex 1 country and non-Annex 1 country. Annex 1 country are the countries that are benefited greatly from the first industrial revolution. And they are about to reduce their emission by the average 5.2% based on 1990. But that has not yet been reached anyway. What our position is to create the non-Annex 1 and Annex 1, to create the middle ground between Annex 1 and non-Annex 1 countries through so-called introducing, a bit technical, but registry of the NAMA, Nationally Appropriate Mitigation Actions. But even that, I don't think will happen. So we are completely in the dark at this juncture what would be done. Maybe after next year there will be no protocol or any agreement or consensus among the international community how to deal with the climate change. But the climate change issue is really creating a lot of problem, not only to the present generation, but the future generation, that we have to solve somehow the problem. For this reason, we are trying to host the COP18 next year in Korea, and we are in the process of soliciting the support of many Asian countries. I hope that Philippines will be able to support our bid. But internally, domestically, Korea think that internationally we have to solve this problem. If international community cannot solve it, then we ourselves have to do first something that we can do. That is why President tried to announce to the world that we would like to be the first in dealing this problem by endogenizing so-called climate change as a domestic variable in policy planning equations. That is the so-called green growth policy that we have been implementing during the last 2.5 years. And in order to share this knowledge, with the developing countries, because developed countries have capacity to emulate whatever we do. We have established Global Green Growth Institute about a year ago, and I am currently chair of the board of directors, and Lord Nicholas Stern, who is the world leading expert on climate change, is vice chair, and we have invited several on the board, including Trevor Manuel and of South Africa, and Montegal Walia of India, who are now tipped as one of the future IMF managing directors. But anyway, we will be having major international conference in June to commemorate the creation of the Global Green Growth Institute last year, and we'll have a board meeting in Seoul. All in all, the reputation of Global Green Growth Institute is very, very high, and I hope that we'll be able to meet the demands of the global community on this issue. Only 3 days ago, I was in Paris to give a keynote speech at the OECD's Global Green Growth Forum. As you may know, 2 years ago, when I was Prime Minister of Korea, I was also chair of the OECD Ministerial Council meeting, which unanimously adopted the Declaration Green Growth. And based on that declaration, OECD conducted a very interesting study, which was produced a few days ago as Towards Green Growth. And green growth is only, I think, answer to the problems of climate change we are facing today. Thank you.
I think time is almost up. My just quick question to President Arroyo about cultural interchange between countries in Asia. I mean, Korea has been known as the originator of the so-called Korean wave, the Korean drama, Korean films, and the Korean singers and dancers, and what have you, going to the nations in Asia and very actively interchanging with the people there. And I recently saw on television the prisoners in the penitentiary in the Philippines singing and dancing Korean songs. I think it was a song by Wonder Girls. I think it was Nobody. I was very startled to see such an active interchange between different cultures in Asian region. I wonder how President Arroyo perceives the cultural context and interchange between different nations in Asia, and how does it contribute to the cultural community building in this region?
Yes, you're right. The Korean pop culture has a tremendous influence on the Philippines. The song Nobody is on everybody's lips.
You know that too?
Oh, I know that very well. And one of your stars, Chandara Park, was living in the Philippines for quite a while. She had a very successful movie career there, and I hear she's very big here in Korea as well now. So the telenovela, we call them telenovelas, the Korean soap operas are very, very popular in the Philippines. So I think such cultural exchanges really lead to a greater understanding among peoples. And I mentioned earlier that one of the obstacles to integration of the Asian community, similar to Europe, America, and Africa, is that we are so heterogeneous. So these kinds of cultural exchange can lead to greater unity and homogeneity among us.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the interesting and stimulating discussions. And I must thank the two leaders for their active contributions to the discussion. Please give them a big round of applause. And I also thank the audience for their patience and attention. Let me make one announcement. There might be a world map session right after this, which should be closed by 10:40. So maybe you leave the room after the world map session and come back to this room by 10:40, 10:45 to attend the plenary session and the opening remarks. Thank you very much. Thank you.